Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.
You're watching Conversations with Jennylyn, and today I have the world's best artist at Tinygami, Stacie Tamaki. She is no guest on my show. Years ago, she came on my show to talk about a trip she took cross-country with a trailer that was custom-made for her. So you can go into my archives if you're interested in watching that video. But today, she is here to share lots of other interesting and inspiring information with us. Stacie, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend this time with me. And welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
I know that you are someone who's always been full of inspiration. And so today I'd like to share your inspiration with others. So during this time in our lives when the world seems so full of new norms, I thought we could start with what your new norm looks like.
Sure. Well, yeah, right now it's very challenging, I think, more so than most often for most people. So there's definitely been a lot of changes that are being forced upon everybody. And when all of this happened with the pandemic and just the world coming kind of to a halt, it felt vaguely reminiscent for me personally, because I used to live in the Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and had a custom bridal accessory business that was couture bridal accessories. So it was for brides. I would make their headpieces and veils and accessories and things like that. And it was very high end. It was for the luxury end of the wedding industry. And I had signed a lease to open a retail storefront after running the business from my home, where I had converted part of the rental that I lived in into a boutique. And everyone kept telling me, oh, you should get a retail store. It's like the next step. You're doing so well with this. And so I kind of listened to everybody else and thought, okay, well, I can try it. You know, it's not a huge risk. I took over a sublease that was only for 2 years instead of the standard 3 years for a lease. And I signed the lease, and about, I should go back and look at the paperwork, but I recall it was 3 days later, 9/11 happened.
Really?
And of course, the moment that happened, our country kind of came to a different kind of halt. And so the 9/11 was followed immediately in Silicon Valley by the collapse of the dot-com bubble, which people had been predicting would happen for years, and then it happened at that moment. And then the whole country went into a recession. And it was 3 days after I had signed on to take all this overhead of a retail space lease. And so not only did my overhead go up, but my sales went down, because a lot of brides and grooms, they didn't cancel their weddings, but they scaled way back. And judging by my sales figures, I would say that they cut back by 75%. So my income that next year dropped by 75%, right when I had added almost 100% of overhead. And I was really overwhelmed, but I didn't even have time to think about it too much. I was just so busy trying to make it work. But it was obviously a struggle. And so up to that point, I had always been self-sufficient. I had moved out of the house when I was 19, got jobs, and always been able to take care of myself. But when all this happened, it was like this whole new world of just, eking by and trying to keep the store going. Like there were days I tell people that my electricity at home got shut off because I couldn't afford to pay both electric bills, the store or where I lived. And I was eating like the top ramen, which was like 10 for $1, or canned chili, where you get 10 cans for $10. And I'd go shopping at night for groceries when I could walk through the aisles and just only buy things that were on sale. Like I never went in with a list of what I wanted. I would just buy whatever I could afford. And the cashiers would be amazed. They'd be like, wow, how did you get all this? As they're loading bags of food for like $24. How did you get all this food? And so I had to make it work.
Well, you were very
and it was really hard. And I felt just devastated by the whole thing. And I finally, just a few months before the lease would have expired, I found someone to sublet the end of the lease and take over the new lease. So I was able to get out from under that expense. But then, of course, the economy was still horribly depressed. And I was trying to still maintain my business from home. And I ended up having to pivot. And what I did was, I was thinking, well, maybe I would have to move back in with my parents and move out of state. But my mom just said, no, you've worked too hard to make this business. Like, you can make it work. I think you can make it work. So I happened to talk to a friend who I had helped years ago when she had an issue with some people that she had opened a consignment account with. She also was a bridal accessory designer. So she was like my competition. But when she got into this kind of sticky situation, everybody else in the industry who heard about what was happening to her told her, well, you should call Stacie Tamaki. You should go talk to Stacie Tamaki. And she's like, why would she help me? You know, I'm her competition. And they said, she will. So finally she did. She contacted me. And I just told her what I would do if I was in her situation. And then we became friends. And actually, we're still friends on Facebook to this day. That was probably like in 2003, 2004. So when I was thinking I'd have to shut everything down, I happened to talk to her, and she told me, here's what you need to do, because this is what I'm doing. I started doing jewelry parties. I started making everyday jewelry instead of bridal accessories. And then my friends host jewelry parties in their homes, and I either pay them a percentage or give them a trade, you know, for jewelry. So I'm like, okay, I can do that. I've got all the beads, all the materials and stuff. So I did that. And sure enough, it's like every time I went out, I would sell hundreds of dollars of jewelry. And it was just enough, combined with what I was doing with the bridal still, to make it work. So then when I saw this happen, when I saw the country shutting down and seeing everybody pushed out of work, it felt so similar to that experience. Because being in this luxury, you know, hospitality, special event industry, it's one of the first things people are going to have to cut out of their budgets, understandably, and will take longer to come back. And that was just really the worst in the Bay Area, I think, even more than other parts of the country. But for where I lived, it was devastating because I saw all my friends struggling. I saw many companies that had been around for years go under during that time. So when this all started happening, I just thought, oh no, like, all my friends are going to really take a hard hit there. Everybody is going to take a really hard hit because I have friends who have all kinds of occupations. And I sat back this time, and it was very strange because when I moved to Michigan, I had planned on continuing doing custom web design and development for small business owners, which was what I had been doing in the Bay Area before I left. But my internet speed here is so poor that I couldn't do it. I think what's standard now, most places, is like 20 megabits per second downloading speed for internet, or higher, like up into the hundreds. And mine is 1.33. So it's really hard for me to do anything online using internet because my upload speed, when you do web development, you have to send pictures and files up and then bring them back down and work on them. So it's like, okay, you know, not doing that. And I had moved out here with the intention of being part of an art competition. And the people who came to that competition gave me so much encouragement that they wanted me to pursue the art instead. And so I started doing that. So when all of this happened, I was working as a miniature origami artist, which has turned out to be one of the best career choices I could have made, oddly.
Awesome. So I have to ask you, those earrings that you're wearing, did you make those? And is that origami?
They're tiny frogs. Yeah.
Can you take them off and show them to us? Is that going to be a problem?
think I can.
They are so
I can put that up.
adorable. Put them up.
So
Oh,
I do like,
wow.
I
And
don't
you
know if you can
made
see it
them?
very well. Yeah, and it's just paper. So I do decorative items and a little bit of jewelry and fine art pieces.
Do you use
And
your fingers? Because that is really tiny. Or do you
I
use
do. I make those with just my fingers. Yeah,
that is
yeah.
amazing. You don't have long nails, do you?
No, I keep them a little shorter, actually. Works better than long.
Because I
Yeah.
can't imagine someone with long nails doing something so ornate.
Yeah, long I think would be harder.
Yeah.
You need a little bit of nail, but you don't need a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Well,
Stacie, we are going through a time in our world now where we have the pandemic, we have all the stuff happening around Black Lives Matter, and there's so many different things that are going on at this time that are not only affecting the United States. How is it all affecting you?
For me, it was very interesting because I mentally prepared for, oh boy, here I go again with struggling because everything is shutting down everywhere. But almost immediately, I found people started ordering more things from my Etsy shop because I have lots of small items that are, say, $12 or less. And so people started ordering them to send to friends who were really upset and stressed out to try to cheer them up. And when they started doing that I just sell like a tiny origami crane about the same size as this frog. And I was charging $8 for each crane because they're made out of this really beautiful paper and I fold them into this tiny, beautiful origami envelope. Pardon?
What did you say it is? I missed that.
A crane, the bird.
Crane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as soon as I realized people were ordering these to cheer people up, I put them on sale and made the shipping free so that people could do this just to help their friends. And I even told people, if you need like a special gift or something, like a little birthday gift or a gift to cheer someone up, and you can't afford even the 50% off kind of price, then just message me and I'll take care of it for them, because I think things are hard enough right now without people feeling regretful that they can't, honor somebody's birthday or graduation or special occasion, things like that. So I felt like it's not much, but it's something that I can do.
That's so very special that you did that. By any chance, would you have any of the pieces that you've made handy that you could show us?
That's so bizarre. I actually do. I don't usually sit over in this part of my studio, but here, I'll open one and just kind of show you if you'd like to see. So this is what I usually send. So it's like a little packet, and inside the packet, there's this little envelope, like this. And I tie it on just with a little piece of thread. And so it comes right off the card. So this is called a manko. And then I don't know if you can see this, you open it up. It opens like flower petals like this. And then you open it more, and inside of it is a little origami crane. Let me pull the wings open and I'll stand them up on my hand maybe. So
that is so interesting.
So this is the tiny crane that I offer to send to people.
It's beautiful and so intricate, Stacie. My goodness, how long does it take you to make one of those?
It takes just a few minutes, yeah, to fold it. But then I buy the paper in large sheets, and I have to cut the paper down into the small squares. And then I treat the paper with this medium called methyl cellulose. It's made from plants. And it stiffens the paper. So then I have to treat the paper, let it dry, trim the paper, fold the crane, fold the manko, put it in the package. So it's not a complicated process, but it just takes some time to do everything start to finish.
That is a great, do you find the whole experience very therapeutic?
I do. It's very meditative. And it's funny because now with the pandemic, the other very shocking thing to me was companies started contacting me to ask if they could hire me to teach origami classes online. So either using live streaming or making a pre-recorded video that they could upload and show, whatever they wanted to. And so that was unexpected also, that here's this other revenue stream that I had not explored before. But the most surprising thing is I didn't prepare for the pandemic in the sense of going on, the internet and buying up like face masks or gloves or any kind of the PPE products. So when it became apparent how serious this was, my first thought was, well, there's a shortage, so we're not going to do that because the medical people need them more than my boyfriend and I do. But then as it kept going and getting worse, I'm like, okay, well, we should have masks because what if something happened to us? What if you just injured yourself and had to go to the emergency room? It's like, now there's all these sick people there, and I don't want either of us to go somewhere like that where we're exposed to people who might have it and not have any protection at all. Right. So I went on the internet and found patterns where people were making, sewn cloth masks. So I researched patterns, and then I did a lot of research on filter materials, because even though they say just, 2 pieces of cotton cloth are still protective for other people, I figured as long as I'm making it, I want it better. I want it to be as protective as it could possibly be, even maybe protective for the person wearing it to some degree. So I did all this research and discovered an article somebody sent me who the women making these masks had tested. They bought a particulate counting machine and they tested every fabric they could get their hands on. And they found one, which are very specific brands of just these shop towels that you buy at like the auto places or hardware stores. And they found that they could filter down to 0.3 microns in size, which is very, very small. So I'm like, okay, so then I had to figure out, how do I get these paper towels, these shop towels? They're actually not paper, they're fiber towels. And finally found a place that had them in stock and was doing curbside kind of service. So I went and I got them and I made my masks and put a picture of one on Instagram just to show people like, hey, look, I made a mask. And the next thing I knew, people were like, are you selling these? Can we order one? And I'm like, no, I'm just making them for my, family and my friends. And then I want to make them to donate to people, to frontline workers. But I can't make them real simply the way a lot of people do, which I think it's great that they do. But I'm just I want to say I was a reformed perfectionist until I started making masks. And then I realized I can't do them any way other than as good as I could possibly make them.
Do you have any handy?
Pardon?
Do you have one nearby so we can see one of your...
I do. I have some here.
You have everything at your fingertips.
Yeah, well, my studio is really small. My work area is just like 8 by 8 feet. So like this is one of my... So it's all fabric. It has the ties, which is what a lot of people were interested in, because the elastic loops that go over the ears, a lot of people were finding they didn't fit really well. And then that pulls down. So I've sold some. I'm not advertising them or anything like that because I'm still just mostly making them and giving them away to friends. But we also give one, like we use the shipped delivery, like Instacart service. So we always give one to our shopper. What's that?
Interrupt you.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said, I have to interrupt you.
Yes.
To tell you, this friend has not received one.
No, but she will. She will. I'll send you some fabric choices to select from.
They're beautiful. Yeah. They're really nice.
Well, I went out of my way to source really beautiful fabrics because I just thought it would make it less painful and annoying to have to wear it if it looked, pretty. And so, and I just wanted people to be willing to wear them to keep them safe and to keep their family members safe. So they are hot and they feel uncomfortable when you wear it, But my friend who's a nurse said, well, if it's not uncomfortable, it's not doing its job, because you want it to seal to your face tight enough to be really hot. Because if you can feel fresh, cool air coming in, it means it's not sealed properly.
But I can't breathe when the air is so hot. I can't breathe. I feel like
Well,
I'm suffocating.
I started practicing where I would just wear them for a few minutes, even in my studio or in the house, just to try to feel a little more comfortable with it. So by the time I really needed to wear them, if I went out somewhere, which we're really not doing at all, then it wouldn't feel so bad. But then one day I was in the studio and I live on a dirt road and it was so dusty. And then my boyfriend was burning like some leaves and stuff from cleaning the yard, and everything had started blooming. So there's all this pollen in the air and my sinuses were killing me. And I thought, I wonder if the mask could help. So I put one on and within a minute, my sinuses felt better. And I left it on for probably 4 or 5 hours that day. And my sinuses felt so much better, which that would be hard to do if it's hot out and you don't have air conditioning. But if you have air conditioning and you're not moving around a lot, you just kind of get used to it. Mm-hmm. So it really didn't bother me that much. But now now I'm like doing the miniature origami and I'm making the masks and I start doing classes here and there, and people contacted me for them. And so in a way, it feels just like what happened in 2001, where I had to pivot, do other things that I hadn't been doing before just to make it through, right? Make it through the other side. And in the process, I was just telling a friend yesterday that I feel like I'm part of that whole Defense Production Act that they talk about, because initially I thought, wow, I'll have all this time to make art. But now I'm spending all my free time making masks. And so on the one hand, I feel like, oh, I really was hoping to do all this artwork. But in comparison, it's like, the masks could be helping to save lives. It's like such a higher purpose to be able to do that and help people. So I'm like, the art will be there when there's time for it again. And for now, the more important thing is doing this. I've also been helping to coach a lot of my friends who have decided that it's time for them to try something new, because either their job's just not going to come back at all, or if it does, it's going to take so long that, they've come to their own realization that this is the time to maybe evolve from where they were doing one thing for years and either, like me, find a way to kind of modify it or just change careers altogether. So having been self-employed for as long as I've been and done so many different kinds of things, I find I'm able to help them, by giving them pointers and advice as far as branding and marketing and their product and how to use social media, just all kinds of different things. So while I'm doing this, while I'm making origami or I'm making the masks, I usually am talking to someone on speakerphone and doing some kind of, I call it light business coaching, because that's not my profession. But I'm finding it's something I'm able to do to continue giving back and helping my friends get through this.
I'm so happy you're so caring and giving and compassionate. And I think a lot of people I've interviewed have an element of that. And I think it's what's helping. We have to help each other through this time. It's just so many things that are unprecedented occurring. And because they're unprecedented, people aren't really prepared for them, so they don't have any sort of plan on how to move forward from the place where we're finding ourselves. So I'm very grateful to you and those like you who are giving to the community and not taking for everything that you give.
Oh, yeah. I was really disheartened when the news broke about how all these big corporations and companies had applied for the PPP money, the Paycheck Protection Plan money, because someone had said to me, you can apply for that assistance as a small business. You could apply. And I thought, well, I could apply, but you know, in all honesty, between selling my art and selling the masks and doing the passes, it's like I'm not earning a fortune, but I'm earning enough, you know, to
That is
do
integrity.
this. So
That
I did
is
apply.
integrity. I'm impressed. That's integrity, because I know people who have applied and they don't really need it. And it
Yeah.
bothers me that they're not leaving it for people who really need it. And
Yeah.
so just thank you for being someone who lives your life with integrity. And you are to be
Sure.
commended on that. I
Yeah,
didn't
I mean,
interrupt you, but I just had to say that.
no, it's okay. You know, I've heard some people say that they don't really blame those companies because the way the system was set up made it legal for them to apply. But, you know, I go back to, well, just because something is legal doesn't always mean it's moral. And
Exactly.
and they're taking it, like you said, from someone else who truly needs it. And that, I think, is kind of heartbreaking that
Yes, it really
we have to
bothers me
witness
when I
something like
see
that.
it. It bothers me when I see that.
Yeah.
So we're almost out of time. Can you believe it? We have 4 minutes left.
I do believe it.
What do you want to make sure you leave with my viewers before we have to wrap up?
I would just say to, you know, try. I know it's hard for a lot of people, but to not lose hope. Everything with my artwork, I tell people I do to inspire people to think of possibilities. By folding things so tiny and miniature, it's something I do that shows people that there are things that are possible that they probably didn't think were, and it translates from tiny paper to even, you know, choices in their own lives. That this is a time, you know, especially if you've lost your job and you don't have insurance, it's a time when you can try something new without risking as much as before. So it might be the time to try something that you've always wanted to do, like turning a hobby into a business, or just trying a whole new career at something. But to not lose hope that there aren't those possibilities for you, because I think we are all born with innate gifts. And the hard part is figuring out what they are.
Exactly. Stacie, you have entered your origami in huge competitions, in art competitions, right? By any chance, do you have any pictures of some of those pieces that you entered nearby that you could share with us?
Not nearby. I have them on my website, though.
Okay, tell us your website address.
It's just at tinygami.com. So tiny means tiny, but gami means paper in Japanese. So origami, the O-R-I, means folded, and gami means paper. So I named my business Tinygami, and then it's .com.
Because I've seen some of it, and I just marvel at what you put together with these tiny pieces of paper. On average, like you had some chandelier type pieces
Right.
that entered in the art exhibition.
Yes.
Competition, right? It's exhibition / competition. Did you win?
Yeah. No, I did not.
Okay.
But, you know, even that, I tell people there's more than one way to win.
Exactly.
Because it was all that support and encouragement from all the visitors who came and saw my art that gave me the confidence to actually turn it into my business. Like if they came year after year, because I entered the same competition each year, and there was like, you know, is there something we can buy? And I'd be like, no, I barely got my entry done. And then the next year, they're like, now is there something we can buy? And I'm like, oh, maybe I should make something they can buy.
You should. Hint.
Yeah, so I feel like I won in other ways. Yeah,
yes.
by being.
You know, like you say, winning is the fact that you were in the competition, to me, is winning. Right?
Yeah, and just meeting so many people. Yeah.
Okay, so on average, and her people, please go to her website and look. Her work is spectacular. Stacie, how long does it take you to make one of those chandelier type things? Because you're folding these things so like they're about an inch each piece, right?
They're usually 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch high, each crane that's on those mobiles. And the mobiles are about 8 inches, so about, you know, that wide by about 2 feet to 30 inches high. They take on average like 3 months to do one set,
Wow.
start to, yeah. But I usually take 3 or 4 when I would go to Art Prize and show them all at once.
Well, I've looked at them all and I can't believe you just sat and did them with your hands.
Yeah.
When I was looking, because I love to knit and crochet, that's that is how I sort of meditate and just distance myself from everything, because it's so meditative. I could imagine how much peace you have when you're doing that.
I do. And I will add really quickly, if it's okay, that I have a lot of tutorial videos on YouTube and Tinygami on YouTube also that are beginner level, most of them patterns. So if people want to have a go at trying to fold, it works just like the crocheting that you're talking about, that it is very calming and meditative. If you go slowly and you start, with simple models, like don't get in over your head and try to do something really complex or advanced, because then that's not calming. But to do the simple things, I think it is, because your mind has to clear because you're so focused on making precise folds. Same with, I'm sure, tracking your yarn and your needles. So.
Yeah, because I also write poetry, but it's different. I don't find that as relaxing because I kind of have to focus on what I'm writing. But when you're knitting, it's the most calming thing that I do in my life apart from my Pilates. So before we wrap up, Stacie, what have you learned about yourself during this time? This very unusual time in the world.
I think the thing I've learned is just, you just have to keep moving forward, and don't expect the worst. Because I will say, as much as I try to be optimistic, when the reality of what was happening around me really sank in, I expected the worst. I expected, not just the country to come to a halt, but my own life to come to a halt. And instead, I'm actually busier now than I was before the pandemic started. And so I'm very grateful, obviously, for that. I'm grateful to have the business because it's allowing me to help more people and my friends. And so I think I'm very fortunate that way. And it was reaffirming after having such a bad experience in 2001 to now be having a different experience this time. So even though I tell people, believe in possibilities, I'll admit I wasn't really believing my possibilities were going to be very good for the next few months or the rest of the year. But now I feel like, no, it's going to be okay. I didn't live a really extravagant lifestyle to begin with. So my overhead now is fairly low. So it's working out.
Maybe we can do another show sometime where you can share some of those tips with others who are being forced to have to change the way they lived.
Yeah, it's just, I look at it as an adventure. Like my tiny trailer that you interviewed me about last time, I lived in that trailer for 6 months in my friend's backyard.
Wait,
before I left California.
You lived in that trailer?
It's 4 feet wide by 6 feet long, and I lived in it for 6 months.
Okay, it's not that I'm a snob, but I cannot live in such a small space because I'm so claustrophobic. I can't believe.
Well, you say that, but if that was your option, I think you could find a way. You would just keep all the windows open all the time.
I won't be able to breathe in there. So before I wrap, do you teach live classes? And how can someone sign up for a class if you do?
I have not started yet.
Okay.
But I'm hoping maybe I will. I really need to get this whole internet situation worked out. Right now I'm like, hoping I get to be a beta tester for Starlink, for Elon Musk's, satellite internet service, because I signed up for a beta tester because they're going to be doing that for people in, I think, more rural areas. And I've made it through like the first round. So they just asked yesterday for me to send my address. So if I get that, I can start teaching live classes, the next day. But right now it's like, I have this much data on my phone, and I can use that much on my phone, because even the Wi-Fi hotspot that I buy, it's faster, but it's not reliable. It drops constantly. And I wouldn't, if I was doing something for free, I would be like, yeah, people can suffer through that if we get booted out over and over again. But if I'm, you know, charging people, then no, I want to have reliable.
And there goes our time. Perfect.
Yeah.
Stacie,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I always enjoy time with you. You're so full of enthusiasm and inspiration and art and so many things that enriches my life. And I hope that someone watching this will feel enriched for time listening to the two of us.
Thank you for inviting me. I love seeing you again. I've missed you since I moved away.
I have missed you too. And thank you again for this time. And we're going to be doing more shows together because you have so much to share that will encourage and inspire.
Sure.
Right?
Anytime.
And thank you so much for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. When a conversation is all you need to be inspired, and I'm sure this beautiful woman sitting across from me has inspired you. And I will see you next time.